Coming up on Network Africa, Russian investigators confirm Metrojet Airbus 321 that crashed over the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt was downed by a bomb. Vladimir Putin promises to fight back.
Wherever they are hiding.
5 gold miners rescued in western Tanzania after being trapped on the ground for 41 days. 12 others are still missing. And Guinea begins countdown to Ebola-free status as last patient is released from the hospital. Hello and welcome to Network Africa. I am Adeshewa Josh. Well, it's no longer a guess or speculations. Russian investigators have finally come to the conclusion that the Metrojet Airbus 321 that crashed in the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt on October the 31st was indeed ripped apart by a bomb. This was revealed during a late-night crucial meeting at the Kremlin when President Vladimir Putin met with top security officials to assess the report of the crash.
The Kremlin has confirmed that it was indeed a bomb that ripped apart a Russian passenger jet over Egypt last month and has promised to hunt down those responsible for the horrific incident. President Putin has also vowed to intensify airstrikes on Islamist militants in Syria in response. In a late-night Kremlin meeting 3 days after Islamist gunmen and bombers killed 129 people in Paris, Alexander Botnikov, the head of Russia's FSB security service, told a meeting chaired by the President Vladimir Putin that traces of foreign-made explosives had been found on fragments of the downed plane and on passengers' personal belongings. We've studied personal belongings, luggage and parts of the plane which crashed over Egypt on 31st October. According to the results of carried-out tests on those items I've mentioned, traces of an explosive of foreign origin have been found. According to our analysis by our specialist, a homemade bomb containing up to 1 kilogram of TNT detonated during the flight, causing the plane to break up in mid-air, which explains why parts of the fuselage were spread over such a large area. We can unequivocally say it was a terrorist attack. Putin responded by saying the incident was one of the bloodiest acts in modern Russian history and ordered the Russian Air Force to intensify its airstrikes in Syria in response. It is not for the first time that Russia faces barbaric terrorist attacks without any obvious reasons, internal or external, like a blast at the railway station in Volgograd in 2013. We have not forgotten anyone or anything. The murder of our people in Sinai is one of the bloodiest by the number of victims of such crimes. We won't wipe off tears over our hearts and souls. It will stay with us forever, but that will not prevent us from finding and punishing the perpetrators. President Putin also said the search for the crash perpetrators will continue until they are found and punished. We should not apply any time limit. We should know them all by name. We will search for them everywhere, wherever they are hiding. We will find them in any spot on the planet and punish them. Ordering the country's secret service to hunt down those responsible for blowing up the plane, he said the effort to bring them to justice should be exhaustive. I asked the Ministry of Defense and General Staff to come up with appropriate proposals. I will check how that works. I asked the Foreign Ministry of the Russian Federation to appeal to all our partners. We are counting on all our friends in seeking and punishing those perpetrators. We will act in accordance with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which provides for the right of states to self-defense. All those who are attempting to help the perpetrators should know that they will bear full responsibility for such. I ask all our special services to focus on that work. Until Tuesday, Russia had played down assertions from Western countries that the crash, in which 224 people were killed on October the 31st, was a bomb attack, saying it was important to let the official investigation run its full course.
Well, let's talk more about the increasing spate of terrorism around the world and how to ultimately stem it. If it is possible, like many analysts have said, that it is indeed possible. Temi Tokwe is a preventive terrorism expert. He joins me now on Network Africa from the United Kingdom. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for making our time. Now, it's been a very tough couple of weeks around the world. Most governments are now aware more than ever before of the elusive nature of the operations of terrorists around the world. Help us make sense of these two main attacks: the Egypt-Sinai crash on October the 31st, the Paris attack on Friday, seemingly targeting countries on a mission to quell insurgency. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are quite simple. We're seeing an evolving organization known as ISIS. The Americans' intention was to contain this organization, but we've seen that they've evolved, moving away from their current location to become a global player and going into the heart of the country's intent to stop them and going in there to cause havoc. They're not just doing it in mainland Britain, but they're making sure that their tentacles could go as far as Russia, and they've also promised the Americans that they're coming there. Now, these are organizations with an ideology, a poisonous narrative, and intent to destroy everything that we stand for, that we value in terms of civilization.
So, as a preventive terrorism expert, help us understand, are there important missing links, not obvious to both France and Russia, and indeed every other country that has been a victim of terrorism in the past, that is making the operations of these people go sometimes even unnoticed?
I think we could see clearly that there was a breakdown in intelligence sharing. This was a kind of incident, or what actually was responsible for the September 11 incident in America, and that led to the establishment of the Office of Managing Counterterrorism. This was the same incident that had the same breakdown in technology, intelligence sharing, that led to the establishment of the Office for Security and Counterterrorism in the United Kingdom. And we noticed, at least from information available in the last 48 hours, that more than 7 attempts were made, to at least attack the United Kingdom, but they've been able to deal with it. But in Europe, because of the open border, people have been able to move from Belgium into France and to other countries. Now, if you look at countries like Israel and America presently, you can actually fly into their country without actually releasing information about your coming into their country. So they know who to stop and who not to stop. And we know that France, for example, is battling with people that are returning back from Syria and other countries where this battle is going on. So it's about how to contain these individuals that are coming back home, and you can't have an infinite resource to watch over these individuals. And I think that is where the breakdown was in the intelligence.
It's very easy to peg some of this crises, some of these attacks, especially in recent days, on the migrant crisis. But this has been the trend over the period of time, okay? So let me ask you, what would you say that these groups, ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, etc., have going on for them, that governments battling them are yet to understand? There's a lot going on for the government, and we have this small group who appear to be very elusive.
Yes, I think most governments seems to forget what the strategic objective of these organizations are. These jihadist movements, which have a common trend running through them, while the operational requirements or operational approach is quite different, but they have an underlying theme, which is the establishment of a caliphate. They're selling what I would call a superior ideology, according to them, that they have a better ideology, a better Islamic ideology, a radical Islamic ideology, and we've not been able to actually pin it down to say to them, no, the ideology you're selling is not right, is wrong. And I think that is where most of these governments are failing, because there are different drivers to terrorism. Many people might feel like in France that their religion is being marginalized. But if you are able to sell to them that their religion is completely different from the religion that ISIS and Boko Haram is trying to propagate in their different areas, then you will win the war, because these guys are going after vulnerable people, and those vulnerable people will join them because they've got a score to settle.
Okay, so let me ask you, why do you think this ideology is setting so fast? In the history of the world, we're living in an era where even poverty, according to latest statistics, has dropped so fast. So if we're penning down vulnerability in terms of how people are being taken care of, or in terms of poverty, then that probably would not, that's an argument that may not sell to somebody like me. What would you say is selling this ideology so fast and so rapid?
I think we're in a different era, digital era where individuals have different reasons why they are looking for things to join, and the different drivers of terrorism, one of them being poverty. If you live in the Western world, you don't expect that should be one of the drivers for driving you into becoming an extremist. But there are different factors, and what policymakers need to look at is address those different factors and ensure that there is an avenue for people to have dialogue, for people to be able to engage with authorities, to tell them their concerns, and for those authorities to take those concerns on board. In Western Europe, part of the challenges they've had is being able to penetrate the diaspora community where some of these challenges are coming from. So we're seeing this diaspora radicalization, and some of the leaders within those communities need to sit up and actually help in dealing with this issue, because it's a collective challenge that is happening here.
So before I allow you go, it's hard to tell how to prevent terror these days. You would agree with me. We've seen a lot of responsiveness more than we've seen preventiveness. How can we scale up our preventive strategies around the world in the fight against terror?
I think one of you hit it on the nail. The preventive aspect is what we need to work on. The UK had actually managed to do a lot in that area, because there's a lot of crowded places and a lot of grading for those crowded places. What we need to do is more of education. Is security education, making people aware of the environment, being able to know what to do at the right time, being able to put in place the appropriate measures, school security, rail security, crowded places security, even media security, because you found out that they did not return back to the media houses to attack the media houses, because the appropriate security measures are now in place in those areas, just like aviation security. So we need to put those security in place and ensure that the community are aware of those security, of those different initiatives, and then work with it. With that, we'll be able to deal with it. But more importantly, we need to work more in the area of de-radicalization of this youth and devolve them or move them away from these individuals that are trying to radicalize them.
Temi Tokbalodo, thank you so much for joining us from the United Kingdom. He's a preventive terrorism expert. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
In the meantime, the search is on for everyone and anyone who might be connected to the Egypt Sinai crash that killed 224 people on board on October the 31st. In Egypt, officials have detained 2 employees of Sharm el-Sheikh Airport in connection with the crash. Egyptian authorities say 17 people are being held. 2 of them are suspected of helping whoever planted the bomb on the plane at Sharm el-Sheikh Airport. Now, it is not immediately clear what role the employees had at the airport, which is Egypt's 3rd busiest, handling a vast number of charter and budget flights for tourists seeking sea and sun in the southern Sinai Peninsula. Well, since the disaster, many flights to and from Sharm el-Sheikh have been suspended, raising concerns that Egypt's tourism industry, worth about $7 billion a year and still a pillar of the economy, despite having fallen sharply in recent years, will be further ravaged. Now, Egypt has not said anything or confirmed whether it was indeed a bomb that was responsible for that crash. Let's take a short break on Network Africa. When we come back, a South African court says swapped babies won't return to their original parents 5 years after it was revealed that they were accidentally swapped at birth. In a moment.